Democrat Doug Jones, who narrowly came out ahead in the U.S. Senate race in Alabama, is bringing a surge of new energy to the Democratic Party. Joining me now to discuss this further is Richar Gambitta, former director of the UTSA Institute for Law and Public Affairs and professor of political science. Good morning.
Good morning.
So I wanted to first hear about your personal experience because you were in Alabama for about a week during the peak of the campaigns.
I was. Tough duty. But it's a fascinating state. It's a state that shows some transition, I think fairly in political terms, into the 21st century. And this was an example of that. We saw tremendous turnout by the Democrats, stimulated somewhat by the poor candidacy of Roy Moore, the allegations of sexual harassment and assault, pedophilia with women as young as 14 years of age, a history of racism in a state that has a blemished history concerning race relations, and more, as well as anti-Semitism, and a whole series of bombardment of other attacks upon Roy Moore. Plus, he was not the greatest of candidates. He never scored at the ballots on election day as high as other Republicans, and he hid for about 10 days, 7 to 10 days during the campaign, while the Doug Jones side kept bombarding him with advertisements and grassroots efforts.
Were you surprised at the results and the way that it turned out?
Not terribly. I knew it would be very close, and it would depend upon whether or not the Democrats came out. And there was really a tremendous turnout among African Americans, especially,
that's right.
And African American women.
98% of the votes among black women.
Black women,
yes.
98% he captured, and it was a 94 to 95% margin of victory, which is unprecedented. And he carried, and he did extremely well among women in general as well. But it was really a matter of the Democrats, and finally, mentioned the youth. Youth came out. You look at Tuscaloosa, where the University of Alabama is. It showed a huge change from the period of Trump's victory to the Jones victory. So all of that came in, but it really was the turnout among the Democrats and a lackluster turnout among the Republicans, rather normal. And then there was the write-in candidate, which also is in a special election had a marginal difference.
And I want to talk about the millennials' voice in this election because according to exit polls, Jones won voters aged 18 to 29 by 60% to 38%. That's huge.
That's right. And very different than the past in Alabama. It shows that the state is in transition. There's a generational shift among voters in Alabama and elsewhere, that it's a new world, no longer dedicated to the racist past that some states have had, blemished as I had called it before, and as far as gender relations, no question that there's a greater view of equality and things that won't be tolerated anymore.
All right, Richard, thank you. And